Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are diving into one of the most famous and strategic openings in chess, the Queen's Gambit. Whether you're a beginner looking to improve your game or a seasoned player looking to refine your strategy, understanding the Queen's Gambit will significantly boost your chess skills. With that being said, let's get started. The Queen's Gambit starts with d4, and after d5 from black, we play c4, offering up a pawn to gain central control. It's a very dynamic opening and leads to rich strategic and positional play. Now there are many variations within the Queen's Gambit. Let's look at some of them. So first we have the Queen's Gambit accepted, where black accepts the gambit with d takes c4. Here white can play knight f3 followed by e3 to recapture the pawn. Let's say black plays a move like knight f6, which is also the main line. Here we play e3, trying to recapture the pawn, and after something like e6 from black, trying to develop the bishop this way, we can play bishop takes c4. Now we can finish our development with short castle, followed by knight c3, and this bishop can come out this way, followed by the rook coming to the c1 square to control the entire file. Now we can also play queen c2 and e4 in the future to take the entire center, which might look something like this. Let's say black plays bishop to b4 check. Now whenever black gives this check, we block with the bishop, and if black were to take us, then we can take back with the knight. Moreover, black can also play bishop e7 in this position, arguing that this bishop is misplaced. Another option black has is the move c5, attacking the center right away. We can simply castle, and if black were to take us, we can simply take back with the pawn or even the knight. After something like knight c6 from black, we can either play knight c3 or we can play d takes c5, offering an exchange of queens. Let's say we play d takes c5. Now if black takes us, we can simply take back, and if black takes the pawn, we can take the queen, or we can also play knight c3 followed by b3 and bishop b2. Here we have a very easy to play position. Now let's move on to the next variation. Next we have the central variation of the Queen's Gambit accepted, where after black accepts the sacrifice, we play e4 to take the full center and attack the pawn. Black can play e5, c5 or knight f6 to attack white's center. Say black plays knight f6. Now knight c3 seems like a very natural move, but it's not. It's a very bad move, because even though you defend e4, you don't, because black can play b5 in this position to guard the pawn, and if you take the pawn, black wins this pawn and you have an isolated weakness. So back to the position, you play e5 to attack the knight, and after something like knight d5 centralizing, you can take the pawn back. If black plays something like e6 or c6 defending the knight, you can develop your pieces like so and castle. And if black plays knight b6, then you can just slide out of the way and develop your pieces naturally and castle. Next we have the Queen's Gambit decline variation, where after d4, d5 and c4, black plays e6 defending the pawn. It's a very solid option for black to control the center. Here white can develop its knights like so. Let's say knight c3 putting pressure on the center. Black can play knight f6 defending. White can play bishop g5 to pin the knight, and after something like bishop e7 from black, we can play e3 followed by knight f3 and develop this bishop somewhere to short castle, which might look something like this. Let's say we play e3. If we ever get attacked, then we can just take the knight, and let's say black plays something like short castle, then we can play knight f3, and after something like b6 or c6 from black trying to solidify the center, we can develop this bishop and short castle. Black can also play something like knight bd7, after which we can either take in the center or play bishop d3 followed by short castle. Here we have a very decent and easy to play position, and in the future we can take in the center, bring this rook, and maybe even team up with this bishop to form a battery, and also take queenside space with these pawns. Moving on to the next variation, we have something what's called the Slav defense. The Slav defense with c6 is another very solid choice for black. This setup supports the d5 pawn and prepares to develop the pieces to natural squares. Play knight c3 in this position to put pressure on the center, and after something like knight f6, you can either play knight f3 or you can play e3 to defend the pawn. You can also take in the center to relieve central tension. Let's say we play knight f3. Now black has many options in this position. First of all, black can take this pawn. Now whenever black takes this pawn, it is very important for you to play a4, because a4 stops b5. Whereas if you don't play a4, let's say you play something like e3 attacking the pawn, now suddenly black plays b5 and you're never going to win this pawn back. So back to the position, let's say black plays something like bishop to f5. Here you can play e3 attacking the pawn, and after something like e6 from black, you can win the pawn back. After something like bishop b4 from black, you can simply short castle. In the future, you can bring your queen now, develop the bishop this way, bring the rooks, and you have a very decent and easy to play position. Another option black has is the semi-Slav defense, where after knight f3 from white, black plays e6 supporting the center. Here, black aims to develop this bishop this way, short castle, play knight bd7, and the light squared bishop can come out this way. Here, I highly recommend you to play e3 defending this pawn. Let's say black plays something like knight bd7. Here, you can develop the bishop this way. Let's say bishop d3. Now, if black were to take this pawn, you can simply take back. Black plays something like bishop e7. You can simply castle short, and after short castle from black, you can play b3 to develop the bishop this way. Bring the rook, and you have a very pleasant position. So there you have it, the tutorial on how to play the Queen's Gambit. Remember, the key to mastering these lines is understanding the underlying ideas, central control, piece development, and strategic pawn breaks. Practice these lines and you'll see a significant improvement in your chess games. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future content. Leave a comment below if you have any questions on topics you'd like me to cover next. Thanks for watching.